straight pool circles the world over. Hi everyone, my name is Steve Lipsky and I am proud to have the honor of inducting my friend Danny Barouty into the 2015 Straight Pool Unsung Heroes category of the Hall of Fame. He's a complicated man, so I'm going to start at the beginning. I first met Danny when I was a kid in college and he was younger than I am now, which I find really bizarre. During the summers, I would travel with some friends to the Bayside Billiard Club, and we were looking to challenge the straight pool legend, Danny Barouty. It didn't take me long to realize how outmatched I was. These were the days before YouTubes and live streams, and I had really never seen anything like this guy. He beat you and insulted you, but he did both exquisitely. He was instantly likable, and for whatever reason, he took a liking to me, and thus began 20 years of him torturing me with jazz. I don't want to understate this. For my wedding, he got me a 12-disc DVD box set of jazz.
He'll be in the high 60s.
Jazz on video. I've never expressed the slightest interest in this form of music, if anything, quite the opposite. 3 years later, still unopened, I asked him if he wanted it. He said yes, and that was that. So basically, for my wedding, he bought himself some music. But what would you expect from a man who made me take this picture? Danny and I began traveling to tournaments together in the early 2000s. He took me to the Downingtown, Pennsylvania 14-1 tournament every year. This was a great little tournament put on by the late, great Pete Sinkler and his friend Mickey Scott. Only about 16 guys, super strong tournament though. Alan Hopkins, more on him later, Bob Madoff, Don Polo, Jack Calavita, Tommy Walters. These were really great trips, and I think that they cemented my relationship with Danny. There was a time that I was beating Tommy Walters about 140-10. I missed a shot, and Tommy fought back beautifully and brutalized me 3 hours later. By the end, I needed about 50 balls, was totally suicidal, and there was Danny laughing at the whole thing, like any good road partner should. Even the stays in the hotel were entertaining. I remember the time that we got there and the room was a little too hot, so Danny called downstairs and asked the kid if we were in Auschwitz. I swear I can still hear that kid laughing on the other end of the phone. Bachelorhood was not kind to Danny. He has the most unbelievable gift of saying wild and inappropriate things and making people laugh with him. We were in a Korean restaurant once and I was trying to order. I was sure I was totally mispronouncing the dish. And Danny looks at me and says, "I think you just ordered the waitress." I was mortified, but she was laughing. She thought it was the funniest thing she'd ever heard. He never misses a chance to ask my Korean wife if she's had any good schnauzer lately. Maybe he just doesn't like Koreans. Charlie? He's a master-level chess player. His knowledge of history is frighteningly detailed. On each road trip, in an effort to drown out what he calls music, I'll ask him about a different period in history. Wars, presidents, pandemics. It doesn't matter, he knows it. You might not agree with all of his views, or any of them, but the man knows his stuff. So this brings us to the pool. He cut his bones at the Golden Q in the 70s and 80s.
I think I was still a teenager when I went to the Golden Q. And the Golden Q, for anyone that doesn't know, was the place on the planet because all great players went there, and you know, it was like St. John's Cathedral.
He saw it all. Gunfights and gang wars and some of the best damn straight pool that the Northeast or the world could produce. He saw Hopkins and Siegel and Rempe and Calavita and more. Danny has always had a special reverence for Al, and I do want to mention that. I know it means so much to him that he's being inducted in the same year. When I've asked Danny where he learned to play so brilliantly, he always says, it's easy. I was exposed to such great players. And while there's some truth to that, lots of players were in the golden queue at the time, and none of them played like Danny. I've been watching him end racks with the same freaking 3 balls for 20 years now, and not only can't I do it, I'm convinced almost no one can. I'll make an absolutely unprovable statement that he's in the top 10 pattern players who ever lived, and I don't think I'll get too many people to disagree with me. I've sat with some of today's best players as we just watched, mesmerized by how uniquely and simply he sees the table. He has a high run of 287 and a 112 on the insanely tight, possibly more than triple shin table 13 at Chelsea Billiards, which was like running 1,000. His short position play, the ability to move the cue ball the perfect 4 inches when 3 or 5 is death, is brilliant. He doesn't just manufacture break balls, he manufactures key balls, and he does it a lot. I didn't even realize he was doing it for the first 10 years I was playing him. You know, he once said about Alan Hopkins, it doesn't even really look like he's doing anything, and all of a sudden he's run 80 balls on you. I could give the same high praise to Danny. When he gets going against you, there's nothing to root for but a skid. Thank God he's fast. He's won countless regional tournaments, and if he traveled more, he'd win them in all regions. He's taken down the New Jersey State, the Pennsylvania State several times, and has numerous seconds in Maryland and even one in Florida. He loves the competition. He's taught me by example to want to play the best, not the weakest. A tough but important lesson, and I thank you for that, Danny. He's a family man with an amazing wife who keeps him in line. In a beautiful poetic justice, his wild and almost comic pool misogyny has granted him 3 beautiful daughters. He recently made a move to the decidedly non-14-1 land of California just to be closer to his wife's family. He now lives and laments in the middle of nowhere, teaching a whole new crew of players how to play the world's most elegant game. He built one of the largest 14-1 leagues in the world at Amsterdam Billiards. He had upwards of 130 players competing in several different divisions, and they all loved to play for Danny. He took a novel approach and removed handicapping, thus forcing players to actually improve their play if they wanted to win. In an era of handicaps for all, this is perhaps his greatest legacy. At various times, the league had a monstrously strong master division. He often had between 6 and 8 150 ball runners competing weekly against each other. Such was his pull. Torsten, Tony, Zion, Mika, Jim, Chris, Mike, and John. Those were all good times, huh? When I spoke to him about this honor, he told me he wasn't sure how to feel about it. There were so many strong players who weren't in the Hall of Fame yet. It's endearing how he's truly unaware of his own strength as a player, his importance in the game, and what he's done to promote this beautiful discipline and to keep it alive. One of his favorite movie lines is from the Western Unforgiven. It's when Clint Eastwood says to Gene Hackman, "Deservin's got nothing to do with it." Well, in this case, Deservin had everything to do with it. You are my brother. I love you. I thank you for all you've taught me in pool and in life. So proud to induct you into the Straight Pool Hall of Fame. Thank you all very much.